So
So,
which one requires better connection, Zoom or Teams? We don't know the difference here, but we use both, right?
but actually, from what I had experience with this summer program, Team is much better because everything is coordinated with Microsoft Office. So for students who do not have access to the subscription of Microsoft Office, they also get the advantage of using all facilities for the Pro.
Hmm.
So that is much better.
In one
Zoom is
sense, but
only the facilities for communication we can get, but with the Microsoft team, it's all integrated with the Microsoft product.
okay, in that some administration that you argue with the finance department because it
Mhm.
might cost more, little bit more, I think. But Microsoft, you have to pay everything, license
Yes.
and so something like that. That's something that needs to be considered. But I think that's the option because we know that it is not going to stop now. COVID is going to be, or well, hopefully, it's going to go away soon. But the fact is that it might stay a bit longer. So online learning, it's going to be more important than before because that's the platform that we rely on teaching, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So investment,
Exactly. It's a
basically,
long-term investment,
it
actually.
is an investment. Yeah.
Ibu
But has there
Mutia,
been a
I really sorry. I'm really sorry.
okay?
I took over your time to be with Pak Made. I'll be
No
off
problem, no
now.
problem.
Please carry on.
It's not be it's not it's not begin yet, so that's okay.
Okay, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So how is it? So everything is full online now. So
In,
any
in
lecture and teaching is conducted through
yeah, yeah. In
by Zoom.
Polytechnic, mostly we are doing it online right now. But for practice or laboratory activities,
Mhm.
sometimes there will be a special schedule set for them. So they will be divided into some team, some groups, so they can
Mhm.
practice in the laboratory or workshop.
Mhm. Okay,
But for theory, it's fully online, Pak Made.
fully online. Okay, so how
Mm-hmm.
big is the student body? How many students do you have in the whole polytechnic? So
Whole
how many
Polytechnic?
students? 10,000, 20,000,
No, no, no. I think four thousand, 4,000 or more.
4,000
Yeah,
students.
mm-hmm. 4,000
Okay,
or more, if I'm not mistaken.
so there are four different years in four different years, 4,000 in four different angkatan.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, three different
Three.
years for diploma three, and
Okay,
4 years for diploma
four.
four. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so diploma four.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So is it? I've never been to. I've never been to Padang, so I'd love to see visit this city. I've
Oh,
never been.
you need to go here then. Visit us here in
Yeah.
Polytech.
Okay. So is it in the central city or it's like 30 years ago major state university built their campuses outside the city and then they have sort of big plot of land and then it's quite
Uh,
beautiful campus because it's just redesigned. So is it the same
yeah.
case? Because I think 30, 40 years ago it's a trend like big universities moving away from the city because it's
Uh, yeah, yeah. We are
so
in suburb.
okay, cool.
We close to Unan or Andalas University.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it is on the top of mountain. On a mountain.
Wow, sounds
On the top of hill.
hillside.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds
So
beautiful.
we are the highest campus in West Sumatra.
Okay,
Quote
so the
unquote.
real,
The highest, the
so
real
the
high.
real thingy, yeah, the real.
Yeah, the real thingy.
That's interesting. Okay, so you have 40
It's
participants.
yeah, it's 3 o'clock already. Should we start the
Yes, I suppose.
I think
But they would
so.
come. They would come, in
Yeah,
dribs
yeah.
and
They
drabs.
will come. Okay.
Students.
Okay, everyone. So we are going to begin the um it's off. Okay. So we are going to begin the lecture. So Please don't forget to write down your question because I really want you to deliver your question to Pak Made regarding to report, report, final report and internship report. You can ask your question through chat, Zoom chat, or you can ask your question directly to Pak Made by click the raise hand button. Okay. Now we are going to begin the lecture. Yes. Please mute your microphone. Okay. Distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon you. Good afternoon, and we are delighted.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes, we are delighted to welcome you to the practitioners lecture series presented by English Department, Polytechnic Negeri Padang, which carry a topic composing a well-organized academic report for final project. We are very honored to have with us here this afternoon some lecturers of English Department, Polytechnic Negeri Padang. Welcome, Bapak Ibu. And our special guest, our special speaker today, Bapak Made Mastianta Nadera, SS, MSc, MSc, PhD candidate, University of Nottingham. Thank you, Pak Made, for joining us
My
here.
pleasure. My
And
pleasure.
also, yes, and also all participants of this lecture, the students of English Department, Polytechnic Negeri Padang. Thank you guys for having joined this lecture series session. This webinar is aimed at bridging a sharing session with professionals about academic report and how to organize it into a well-organized final report, which is very useful for English department students. So we gladly invite you to discuss about this topic with our speaker later on. You may drop your questions on chat box or click raise hand button to ask Pak Made directly. We are now continuing our meeting to the next agenda, that is sharing session with our speakers, with our speaker. Before that, please allow me to read the CV of Pak Made first. So, Bapak Made Mastianta Nadera currently teaches qualitative social research methodology at Universitas Budi Luhur, Jakarta. He grew up in Singaraja, Bali, before continuing his tertiary education at English Literature Department, Faculty of Letter, Universitas Indonesia, now the School of Humanities, Universitas Indonesia. He graduated with a bachelor degree in English Literature in 1996 and continued his education and obtained his master's degree in European International Relations from the European Studies Postgraduate Program, School of Strategic and Global Studies, Universitas Indonesia. He obtained his second master's degree in sociology from University of Bristol, UK in 2015. He is the recipient of some awards and scholarships that include the Japan Airlines Scholarship 1995, the UK Government Chevening Scholarship 2014 and 2015, and currently completing his PhD at the University of Nottingham, UK, with the scholarship from the Nottingham University Business School and UBS, and the Nottingham Biomedical Research Center, NBRC. Can I share your email, Pak Made?
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yes, you can share my email.
Okay. He can be contacted at the following emails: made.mastianta@budiluhur.ac.id or made.nadera@nottingham@ac.uk. Now, later on, I will
Okay.
share the emails on the chat box,
Okay.
okay? Without further ado, let's jump to the core of this lecture session. Pak Made, please, the time is yours.
Okay. Many thanks for that wonderful introduction, Ibu Mutia. So can
No
you hear
worries,
me?
pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I can hear you
yeah. So
clearly.
this is how we do things now because of the pandemic, and I hope that you are doing very well back then in Padang. I've never been to Padang, so we have just had this conversation. Probably I would visit Padang one day
Of course.
because
Of
it's
course.
one of my in my bucket lists. One of the cities that I would like to visit. Okay, um, so we discussed before that the explanation could be in two different languages. I'll explain in English and in Indonesian, so that if if you have questions, you could also ask in English or in Bahasa Indonesia, just to facilitate that that students will uh, keep engaged and participating in this webinar. So I would like to now to share the screen. Um, okay, so can you see that?
Yes, I see the
Yes, we
screen.
can see it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So okay, let's start from sometimes. No, yeah. Okay. So this is the theme today: composing a well-organized report for academic project. And then I would start by giving you the idea of what writing is for university. And you know that as a student, you might have encountered a lot of different assignments in writing, and university study, involves a significant amount of writing. And and then these are the key assessment and when you have to present a clear argument and other features of good academic writing. So it's an essential task in university level. Now we know that academic writing is different in some ways from more everyday styles. I think you understand that in almost anything that you do today, these activities would involve writing to some extent. But then academic writing is typically different. It has some rules that you have to follow. But it doesn't mean that it's a tedious assignment. It's not a natural gift, but something that needs to be learned and practiced. So it's something that you could always improve. So this is kind of thing that I always emphasize to my students, that writing needs practice and it could be learned because it's technical. So I don't want to scare students by saying that writing is always difficult, and if you don't have the talent you can't do it. I think that's not the case. But when you work hard and you practice a lot, then you would get to the point that you could actually write or produce a very good essay. And writing for university is what we call writing critically. It means that you are questioning the process and you are commenting and evaluating on something. And your evaluation doesn't have always to be positive or you always agree with the author, but sometimes you can express disagreement with the author, or sometimes you evaluate the authors. So this kind of things is quite important when you think about academic writing, because probably because I was educated in Indonesia and then I had the opportunity to study overseas, so I can tell the difference, the way that we were taught back in schools and the way we have to write essays in university. That is, it's quite different. For Indonesian, we are not expected when we are at schools to argue against an author. Basically, we just accept understanding what an author says is good enough, and we don't go to a higher level as to sort of evaluate and asking questions about how this author would think in the way he does. So this is what we call writing critically for university, and I suppose that you must have one or two subjects that involve writing. Mm, okay, and I have read the book that is used for this course, which gives you the idea of practical side of report writing. So report writing basically involve preparation and planning,
Jangan.
understanding understanding the assignment, and the plan to achieve it within the time frame. The thing is that with writing is an activity that might take time, and then you have sort of limited time to complete that. So you always have to think about how much time you have left to complete the assignment. So preparation and planning is very important. And then you have collecting and handling information, which is about making and understand notes and other information that you need, and then writing and revising your report. So basically, when you are tasked with an assignment, a long assignment like your academic project or your report for the academic project, it is basically you could divide into three: the preparation and planning, the collecting and handling information and data, and then writing and revising your report. Um, and there are some things that you always think about when you finally write and revising your report is that this what I call no submission without editing and your murder your darlings principle. So once you write your report, you always need to check whether every sentence makes sense, and does it conform to the rules that you are expected to adhere to. Okay, and I'll add something in Indonesian. Ya, saya ambil ini dari Bowden, ya, dari buku yang saya kira ini diktat kuliah yang dipergunakan ya. Jadi pada dasarnya itu ya dibagi tiga sih mudahnya ya. Jadi ada persiapan, pengumpulan data, dan penulisan laporan. Jadi tiga hal ini memang sangat penting. Dari pengalaman saya biasanya mahasiswa itu keterbatasannya ya karena waktu kan, tidak bisa lebih dari mungkin 4 tahun ya. Dan ada kegiatan lain juga, masih ada mata kuliah yang diikuti. Jadi membuat jadwal bagaimana menyelesaikan tugas itu dalam kurun waktu yang ditentukan itu juga tantangan tersendiri. Dan untuk collecting dan handling information, mungkin saya sempat berdiskusi dengan Ibu Mutia tadi, yang mungkin sudah ada mata kuliahnya sendiri ya. Jadi itu yang diberikan di situ, bagaimana mengumpulkan data, bagaimana menganalisa data, dan bagaimana melakukan PKL ya, dan ada workshop yang diberikan. Dan yang ketiga itu dalam penulisan dan merevisi laporannya itu kita selalu harus ingat sebelum kita menyerahkan kepada pembimbing atau dosen ya harus diedit dulu gitu. Jadi tidak ada no submission without editing gitu, karena ya mungkin beberapa dosen yang ikut yang berpartisipasi dalam webinar kali ini sudah mengalami beberapa kali gitu ya. Jadi kalau mahasiswanya seringkali menyerahkan hasilnya sangat terburu-buru, itu sangat menyita waktu bagi para dosen yang mempunyai banyak tanggung jawab gitu. Jadi usahakan mahasiswa itu menyerahkan sesuatu yang sudah diedit terlebih dahulu. Dan ada prinsip yang disebut murder your darlings. Itu murder your darlings itu kan sesuatu yang sangat sulit. Jadi kan membunuh sesuatu yang kita sayangi gitu. Tapi pada dasarnya itu harus dilakukan. Artinya begini, kalau kita menulis, kita seringkali senang sekali dengan kalimat yang kita tulis sampai kita tidak mau membuangnya walaupun kalimat itu tidak berhubungan dengan kalimat lain dalam satu paragraf. Itu sangat berat gitu. So sometimes it's very difficult to throw that away, and instead of throwing that away you keep it, but that sentence makes the whole paragraph looks very bad or very ambiguous. Ya, jadi satu kalimat yang kita sangat suka yang itu malah membuat keseluruhan paragrafnya tidak bermakna. In my opinion, I think to some extent writing is technical. So you can always learn how to write. You can always practice how to write. But some of the most or more important problems, I suppose, for Indonesian students, especially when they have to write something in English, is that it starts with reading, because basically academic reading is the proof of what you have read and how much you understand what you have read. Ya, jadi sebenarnya academic writing itu bukti seberapa banyak kita membaca dan memahami literatur yang sudah kita baca, dan kemudian kita memberikan tanggapan kita terhadap literatur itu. Sepertinya yang secara mudahnya seperti demikian. So reading is very important, And what you need to be able to engage is what we call critical reading, when students are expected to think beyond information in the text and to make up your mind about whether the information is important, why it is important, and how it connects with other information and ideas. So I have several students who are, studying overseas in many institutions across, Australia and the United Kingdom. When they come back to me and ask, how do I become a writer? Sometimes I give them this answer that's quite, uh, you know, it sounds a little bit contradicting. I would say that the way you improve your writing is by reading. When it comes to academic writing, because everything that you write actually comes from what you read and how much you understand about the text that you have read. And you need to always be involved in this active reading, active effort to engage your brain, and then you need to build a scaffold and challenging the author, imagining a dialogue with the author. Now, building a scaffold means like you are building, step by step. It's building stairs. A scaffold is something that if you have a building, if you're you know building something like brick building, then you use something outside it that the bricklayers could stand on it and then start putting every brick. So it's just like going from the very bottom and going up, and then you're increasingly becoming more proficient in reading. So this is what I need. uh, it is very important. So I suppose that uh, with I've discussed it with Ibu Muti and said I think you have three different courses, reading one, two, and three. So students need to make the best use of it, to read, to know how to read and to understand what the text is all about. And reading is tedious, so it's tedious in the sense that, you have to allocate time, you have to have the energy, you have to get the stamina, but you can actually build the stamina by keep reading. So the key to becoming a proficient reader is by reading, reading, and reading. And then you come to this problem of what do you need to read. Now, initially, what I understand is that you need to choose some of the topics or the materials for your choice, and then uh, present it to your supervisor or the department, and then they will decide whether they accept it or not. Now, and then the first thing that you need to do is you have to understand the assignment title. What do you think you are going to do? Are you going to do a translation of a literary text? Now, if you do a translation of literary text, then there are some literature, there's some books, there are some textbooks that you need to read. So you have to get hold of most of the literature, if you will, and then collect that. Now, uh, while you are selecting your reading list, you have to bear in mind what is included and what is not included in your work. Now, your supervisor might be able to tell you what books that you actually need, or you can go online and find some of the resources and ebooks and everything that is available on the internet. But the thing is that with the things that are on the internet, sometimes it's there for commercial purpose, and sometimes you don't know whether it's reliable, or is it actually useful for your project. So if you have a library, a physical library, I think that's one of the things that one of the facilities that you need to consult, because basically every book in the library has gone through the selection. Your lecturers must have seen, must have read that, and must have recommended that books to be in the library. So it means that it is recommended. But if you go to Amazon or online booksellers, they would just put the books that are most read, which probably is not the most suitable for your work. That's what I call taking control of your reading list, and you look for reliable academic source. Jadi artinya sebelum mengerjakan tugas itu kita harus membuat suatu daftar buku yang harus dibaca, dan saya kira mahasiswa itu bisa saja menggunakan bahan online, tetapi masalahnya seringkali materi online itu tidak bisa diverifikasi kualitasnya, dan kadang-kadang ada di suatu website karena dia misalnya di Amazon karena dia paling laku, paling banyak dibeli orang, tapi itu kan tidak langsung menunjukkan kualitas gitu. Jadi saya pikir fungsi perpustakaan itu masih sangat penting gitu, karena saya lihat sekarang banyak orang berpikir perpustakaan sudah tidak penting lagi gitu kan, karena sudah ada online, buat apa ada perpustakaan. Kalau menurut saya itu masih tetap sesuatu yang sangat penting. Saya kira di universitas di seluruh dunia pun perpustakaan itu masih sangat penting sebagai bahan rujukan gitu ya. Jadi entah itu dalam bentuk online atau dalam bentuk fisik, itu lain masalah. Jadi artinya begini, dalam koleksi buku di perpustakaan itu sudah diseleksi oleh dosen-dosen dan para pengajar di situ yang memiliki kemampuan dalam bidangnya. Jadi itu sudah berarti sangat relevan dan memiliki kualitas yang baik. Saya kira seperti itu, karena sekarang ini banyak mahasiswa yang larinya ke online dan mendapatkan materi yang mungkin tidak sesuai dan tidak secara akademik itu bisa diakui sebagai sumber. Reading is an activity that you need to enjoy, and that's why first, well, you have to know method to purpose. Probably you must have heard about scanning, skimming, or just reading, and close reading. Scanning is when you look for particular information, like the year or the name of a person. Skimming is more to look at the main ideas of a text. And close reading is really when you really want to understand every single word and you want to quote them, but you really need to understand every single thing there, so as not to create confusion about the message or your evaluation of that particular text. And stay flexible, review your progress as you go along, and planning time and place. Everybody has, student, they have their own time when they feel that they're ready to read. So you have to know what is the best time for you to read. There are people who could read early in the morning and then read 1 or 2 hours. There are people who are more a night owl. They read something better at night. So you choose your time to read, but try to allocate uh, enough time for you to read, because this is very important. It is very obvious when you write if you don't understand what you have read, and it's obvious in the letter, and it's obvious in every letter, in every single word that you choose. It's a reflection of how much you understand about the text. So reading is a fundamental things before you can actually, or before you attempt to write any assignment. And while you are reading, you have to keep engaging this active reading effort by reading, questioning, and evaluating, approaching the text actively, finding key message, analyzing materials and its implication. Saya rasa membaca kritis itu sangat penting menurut saya, karena itu merupakan fundament dasar dari apa yang akan kita tulis, karena yang kita tulis itu adalah apa yang kita baca. Tapi kalau membaca terus tanpa menulis, nah itu juga nanti akan bermasalah, karena nanti tugasnya tidak selesai seperti itu. Jadi harus membaca dan kemudian menulis, karena yang akan dinilai memang reading tidak akan dinilai oleh supervisor, tapi yang dinilai adalah hasil tulisan. Tapi hasil tulisan itu awalnya adalah dari pengetahuan yang kita dapat dari membaca. So active reading is very important. It doesn't matter what kind of format that you are using ebook, you are using printed books, and as long as you enjoy doing that. There are people who don't really like reading from the screen, so they really want to have something on their hands, which is a printed book. That's fine. If you're more a digital person, then you enjoy more if you scroll down a page, so that's the best thing to do. So you keep doing that. So, but while you are reading, you have to make notes, but you just don't make notes for the sake of making notes. It has to serve a purpose to become an effective notes. That you could have a full reference details, a log entry, relevant page numbers. Um, if you are using PDF now, I think that's it's built in it. You can highlight, you could draw something, and then make sure that you save it. You just click save, and then everything will be saved. If you like printed books, and then you use post-it in colorful one, or you use highlighters. In Indonesian we call stabilo, and you would end up with very colorful printed books with lots of different colors. But if you like it and it's how you learn, that's fine. And then you have to keep the purpose and questions at the top of your notes. When you read, do you think this is relevant or is this irrelevant? There are many ways of actually making notes, but you have to remember that you are doing something uh, close to the title of the assignment. If you are doing, say, you are translating a literary works, you have to always remember the the topics that you have chosen. So this is culture and translation, culture and translation. So everything that has something to do with culture and translation, then you mark that as important and possibly be included in your writing. Information sometimes, not too detailed or too brief. So as uh, is as long as you could sort of, it helps you to jog your memory why you mark that particular, why you write down that notes on that particular page. I think that's sufficient. And you have to distinguish between main points of argument, minor points, or example. But it's still very important to mark or make notes of whatever you have read. In my experience doing research and writing essays, it's quite time consuming when you read, when you remember something, you want you to quote that, and but you don't know where to go. You're just like fumbling, and then like I, I I remember this phrase, but I couldn't find what it is. And then because you can't find it, you make it up, and you didn't quote it. You don't cite, you don't choose the right reference, and then it end up, you are accused of plagiarizing a work, which is quite a serious offense in academic circle. So making notes, and then keeping a sort of a tab on it, and then remembers everything, I think helps you to save more time when you write and quote other resources. There would also be need a clear system of distinguishing exact phrases from the text, which is quotation, and your own words to describe, which is called a paraphrase. Probably then you, there will be another session probably from Ibu Mutia or from other lecturers that would deals with what is called quotation, paraphrasing, summarizing, all these different elements in writing, which is very important. But it all comes back from what you actually have read, how much you understand it. So you can decide whether you want to quote, whether you want to paraphrase, paragraph, or summarizing the whole text. So if you understand what you have read, these activities would not be that challenging. Ya, dalam membuat catatan, making notes itu sangat penting karena uh, tulisan yang kita buat itu, laporan itu akan berdasarkan apa yang kita baca. Jadi akan seringkali sangat membuang waktu kalau kita kemudian mencari lagi. Kita ingat sesuatu, kita kutip dari sumber lain, tapi kemudian kita tidak menemukan itu karena kita tidak membuat catatan dari mana bahan itu kita temukan. Nanti ini bisa beresiko plagiarisme karena kita tidak memberikan referensi yang memadai. Dan kemampuan membaca saya kira lebih sangat penting ya, karena hanya dengan membaca kita bisa menentukan kapan, apakah kita akan mengutip secara secara harafiah langsung dari kutipannya, atau mengganti kalimat-kalimatnya dan menyesuaikan dengan apa yang kita pahami, atau membuat summary secara keseluruhan apa yang kita pahami dari teks itu. Jadi kalau kita sudah membaca dengan benar, proses ini akan lebih mudah dilakukan. Your comments and ideas, it's also very important, because I think one of the idea of plagiarism is that you have to include your comments and ideas. If you just compiling other people's ideas, it is, although it's not as serious as the first level of plagiarism, it's still considered as plagiarism because you are not giving your own comments and your contribution to that discipline. Saya kira ada aturannya sendiri juga kalau kita membuat tulisan itu harus ada pendapat kita juga gitu. Jadi jangan hanya mengumpulkan pendapat orang lain. Dalam beberapa institusi di Indonesia mungkin masih menerima itu ya, tapi saya rasa kedepannya kita harus lebih menekankan pada mahasiswa dan yang mengerjakan tugas itu bahwa kita harus menyumbang pendapat kita sendiri. Jadi jangan semua itu diambil dari sumber lain tanpa kita menambahkan pendapat kita atau evaluasi kita terhadap bahan itu. Jadi itu dianggap plagiarisme kalau kita hanya mengutip saja tanpa memberikan komen atau tanpa memberikan sumbangan dari pengetahuan kita sendiri, dari pendapat kita sendiri. Okay, so do you want to have any questions now, or I can continue, Ibu Mutia, with the essential features of academic writing?
Okay. Can we receive a question, or you want to continue?
Yeah, I mean, I could continue with because before I talk about reading, now I talk about essentially writing. So I can continue. Then we could have the questions at the end. Okay, the essential features of academic writing. First is, the style. This is actually a style. We call it style. Is that particular use of words and sentences to express ideas. Ideas could be issues and facts, which are often complex in university assignment. So we are dealing with essentially, academic writing. It's not just writing, but academic writing where you have to express ideas that are often complex. It's sometimes not that straightforward, but you need to couch the language in such a way that it's accessible for the academic circle. Basically, it's academic writing is objective and formal, and spoken style is subjective and informal. Now let's look at the academic and non-academic style. There are many books that deals with it, so this is only one of them. So if you find other books that add the features of academic and non-academic style, you could actually use it. But have a look at the publisher who published it, who are the writers. If it comes from a very reputable publisher, then you could use it. If you are in doubt about that, probably students could come to the lecturers and ask, "Did I use some of the things from these resources?" Because nowadays in online, there's so many things that people just write, and to know the merit or the actual quality of that, you need to contact someone who actually knows, or has been proven as someone knowledgeable in that field. Now, the use of personal pronouns or personal reference. I'll give you two examples. The first one is sentence: technology has changed the way people communicate. And then you have this one. Personally, I think technology has changed the way we communicate. Which one do you think is more, academic, and which one is more non-academic style? Now, usually, if we do that in the classroom, and it's very interesting to see the reaction from the student. But because we are doing this in online, sometimes that sort of interaction is missing. What I want to show is that the first one, you have technology has changed the way people communicate, and the second one, personally, I think technology has changed the way we communicate. One of the things in academic style is that we always try to reduce, using the personal pronouns I, you, we, they, those kind of things, but try to be more neutral. So the first one, technology has changed the way people communicate. It's regarded as more academic, and in nature, it's more acceptable in academic writing or in reports of academic nature, rather than the second one. When say personally, I think, and then you have the word, the way we communicate. You as much as you can try to avoid it. Although in some of the books says, you can use I, but then we would discuss that. When do you think you could use personal pronoun I, and when do you think you need to be more sort of neutral? The second one is in academic style is that the use of non-emotive language versus emotive language. This is very important because most of the time students don't realize which one is called more emotive or non-emotive language. Non-emotive is like, words such as significant, as substantial, and emotive language is words such as like huge, massive, wonderful, incredible, so many and great, which you have to sort of avoid using that because it doesn't show what is huge, what is massive, what is wonderful, incredible. It has some element of subjectiveness in this kind of word. You use the word bad. What is bad? So you have to qualify then, and we'll have the part on that. You have to qualify your argument and not using words that is only emotive and not very clear, because academic style wants you to be very clear and exact of what you're trying to say. And in terms of translation, you also need to be able to understand what are the jargons and specialized vocabulary, technical jargon that you need to know. So if you are in broadcasting, so you have to be familiar with the jargon, and you need to probably get a glossary of jargons used in broadcasting, because that would help. And you are expected to use uh, that particular word because it means that you are in your discipline and you know the jargon that you are used. I have experienced one, I think, translating something in IT when I worked for an IT company, and I come across the word standalone. I thought like, okay, I'm going to change it to independent because I'm not an IT person. So, and then I realized that standalone is basically a jargon that, you can't use the word independent, although you probably think it means the same thing, but you have to use the word standalone because that's the jargon. Much in the same way that in sociology you have the word agency, which basically means motivations or ability. But when you use the word agency, it's obvious that you must have read some of the books about in sociological theory about agency and structure. So that's that's how it's important that you have to know the jargon in your field to be able to have a conversation when you need to have this conversation with the people working in the same discipline. Ya, jadi salah satu feature dari academic writing adalah penggunaan, uh, kita harus mengurangi penggunaan uh, pronoun seperti I, you, we, they, diusahakan lebih netral. Kedua adalah kita menggunakan kata-kata yang istilahnya non emotif yang lebih jelas gitu, dan hindarkan menggunakan kata-kata emotif seperti huge, massive, wonderful, incredible, bad. What is bad? Who decide? Siapa yang mengatakan itu bad? Bad itu seperti apa? Seperti itu kan agak sulit menjelaskannya. Dan kemudian pemahaman terhadap pengetahuan terhadap jargon artinya kata-kata serapan atau kata-kata bahasa Indonesia yang digunakan dalam bidang itu. Jadi kalau yang memilih pengutamaan penerjemahan, ada kata-kata tertentu yang memang harus digunakan. Kalau broadcasting ada kata-kata tertentu yang harus digunakan. Creative writing atau writing ada kata-kata tertentu yang menjelaskan konsep-konsep tertentu yang hanya bisa digunakan dengan menggunakan kata tersebut. You have to use precise words rather than less specific informal words. When you say the damage is extensive, 2/3 of the land is submerged under 2 meters of water. So that's very clear. 2/3 of the land is submerged under 2 meters of water, and you can compare it with this sentence. Many things were turned upside down by the storm. A lot of land is now underwater. The second one is not so academic. The first one is a lot more academic because you are clear enough. You defining something 2/3 of the land, so mathematically you know how much of the land is actually underwater, and the height, you know the depth of the part that is submerged. It's clear that it's 2 meters of water. Yes, so this is it's very important. Probably if I could just give you some jokes like in Bahasa Indonesia, sometimes probably you will know that some reports in broadcasts probably use the word setinggi lutut orang dewasa, something like that, which is not actually, in academic. You can't do this because orang dewasa is different, right? Lutut ada yang tinggi, ada yang orang yang pendek. So, the depth of water is not clear when you say setinggi lutut orang dewasa, something like that. So to give you just an idea, you need to be more precise rather than using informal or less specific words. You have to construct formal sentence. You can say in the current economic crisis, employment opportunities for new graduates are limited. So that's very clear. In the current economic crisis, employment opportunities for new graduates are limited, rather than it's not a good time to look for a job these days, not when the economy is in crisis, especially for new graduates. The second one is more colloquial, it's more spoken style, but you can understand the message. But when you write, you have to be very objective and very clear, and you need to create unambiguous sentence, and that which is accepted, in the level of academic writing. And use of full forms and abbreviation. Some of us might ask questions about, can I use full forms and abbreviation? Basically, you cannot use abbreviation in English like can't for cannot, shouldn't for should not. But I suppose in some academic writing, if you have eg or ie, which is exempli gratia, and idest in Latin, I think this is still acceptable. But other abbreviation that woulda, shoulda, gonna, wouldn't is not acceptable in academic writing. Now, after looking at some of the features of academic style, and then we move on to the strategies for developing an academic writing style. So these are just some of the strategies. It's inexhaustive, so you could find different books and um, that deals with other type of strategies. So the sun has come up here, and it's autumn now here in the UK. So it's good to just have a sun coming out in the morning. um, the first one is restrict the use of first. I've we have discussed it before. I've given you some parts of this before. Uh, you restrict the use of it, and then you expand your sentence range, vary sentence starters, use academic and precise vocabulary, write with conviction and authority. But this might take time, so I will deal with this in a moment. You need to avoid excessive use of personal pronoun. Have a look at this one. I'll give you 1 minute to read that. Okay, the first one, if you read it, my main task for each day was to complete the computational analysis. I also had to write one-page report at the end of my day's work for my project leader. For me, the most valuable experience was that I had the opportunity to be involved in a real project, and I could understand more clearly how theory informed practice. This one might be more suitable when you write your journal entries, right? So once you've done your work, you work in other companies, uh, you know, doing what we call a PKL, and then you're writing a journal entries. This is what it looks like, right? You are reflective about what you are doing. But then when you write the report about what you have done there during your assignment, then the second one would be more appropriate. The main task was completing the computational analysis and writing a report for the project leader. The most valuable part of the 3-month work experience was being involved in a real project and understand more clearly how theory informed practice. So not only it's a lot more succinct, it's shorter, but it conveys just as much information as the first, but it's so more acceptable in terms of academic evaluation. Ya, jadi dalam menulis laporan itu diusahakan jangan terlalu stylenya itu seperti membuat journal entry. Kalau yang bagian pertama ini bisa saja diterima dalam sebagai salah satu catatan dalam journal entries karena dia menunjukkan bagaimana mahasiswa itu berpikir terhadap apa yang telah dilakukan, dalam, dan pengalaman apa dan pengetahuan apa yang didapatkan dari kesempatan magang tersebut. Tapi yang kedua ini yang harus bentuk yang lebih berterima sebagai laporan. Saya kira demikian. Other ways of the strategies of the strategy of improving your writing style is by expanding the sentence range. You have here sentences that are always the short one. Digital cameras are portable. Their 35mm counterparts are more burdensome by nature. Digital cameras provide more freedom to filmmakers. Shooting a film becomes spontaneous, flexible, and creative process. There's nothing wrong with that if you use a single sentence, but then you need to allow flow into it so that people who read it would have a sense of you are going somewhere with this kind of an argument. And then probably you could use coordination, and then you create compound sentences. You can write things like digital cameras are portable, but their 35mm counterparts are more burdensome. Or you can write digital cameras are portable, however, their 35mm counterparts are more burdensome. Or digital cameras provide more freedom to filmmakers, and shooting a film becomes more spontaneous, flexible, and creative process. This is using coordinating conjunction of contrast. So try to expand the sentence range, not only using a simple structure. You could also write complex sentences, which you use subordination. I think this is part of the, in grammar, you might have come across all these jargons in syntax. Since digital cameras provide more freedom to filmmakers, shooting becomes a more spontaneous, flexible, and creative process. So try to include something like this so that it adds something to your writing. And of course, it's hard work. Although writing is technical, it's hard work. So you need to allocate time to compile a list of common subordinators. That would be a time, place, condition, contrast, reason, purpose, result, or preference. So in many other books, so if you go to online resources, then you would just find this, but then you have to check it with your supervisor whether this is a good one or not a good one. But basically, it's your job. And once you get a hang of it, it becomes second nature. So it's going to be very easy for you to do that. But in the beginning, you have to look at some of the textbook that give you the table that gives you exactly what subordinators of time is, of places, all the rest of it. But once you master that, writing would not become much of a problem. You could also vary sentence starters, just to add some color sort of in your writing so that it doesn't sound very dull. When you write, it's impossible to activate the alarm system without the C4 device. Without the C4 device, some of the variations, without the C4 device, it's impossible to activate the alarm system, or activating the alarm system is impossible without the C34 device. So the first one is the original one, and the second one is just like when you are trying to vary sentence starters, and you started without the C34 device, and then starting with activating the alarm system. I hope it's clear, right? So this is just your vary sentence starters, and you can play with that, and you could do something that makes writing more engaging. And you need also to use academic and precise vocabulary. Okay, so if you look at this, have a look at this one. Well, I need to draw I need to draw the curtain because the sun shines right to my face. So have a look at this first.
Okay.
You are lucky, Pak Made. You got the beautiful sun there.
Okay.
See,
Yeah.
you can
So
see.
okay. So now uh, the paragraph. It says education is a great thing for your life and work. A university education gives people lots more opportunities for self-improvement and do cool stuff. Nowadays, there's a huge pressure to get rich and climb up the ladder of success and keep up with the Joneses. So you see, there are lots of features that is, which is not very academic, right? So if you look at the second one, um, uh, if you look at this notes, when you say education is a great thing for your life and work, a university education gives lots of people lots more opportunities for life improvement and do cool stuff, which is very colloquial, which is not academic. And there is a huge pressure. The word huge here is emotive, to get rich and climb up the ladder of success, which is a cliche. A cliche is something that has been used so many times so that it's lost its meaning. And then the word keep up with the Joneses. Well, you could use some sayings in your academic writing, but use it sparingly. If only it's very important. But if you just want to draw well attention, don't use these sayings because it then would be. And then the saying here, keeping up with the Joneses, is quite an old saying that has been used over and over again. So that's why it has become a cliche. So you can see this one is just like uh, not acceptable in terms of academic uh, writing style. So you need to keep looking at that and say, is this academic enough, or I need to improve? Um, and then let's discuss writing with confidence and authority. And we could use what we call hedging to reduce the forcefulness of a statement, because you need to always be mindful that you don't know everything when you write in academic writing style, that you yourself have limit in knowledge and you can't possibly know everything. And then you use hedging just to sort of keep you in the right sort of corridor. Yeah. Trying to, when you say future citizens of society are generally expected to better themselves and society, so that's the right sort of statement, right? Because you use hedging, generally expected, you know. But when you use this one, as the future citizens of society, we should strive to better ourselves in society. Sorry, it's misspelling. Okay, so this one is not using hedging. Yeah, the first one uses hedging. Pursuing a university degree can enhance people's ability to contribute to society as effective citizens. This is using hedging. But then get a university degree and contribute to society as an effective citizen. This is just like you are telling someone what to do. So when you are writing, then you have to be very mindful of the tone of your or statement, that you just don't say it just because you want to say it, but you have to hedge it and give it sort of a limit. You also need to make the point directly. Literacy can help to create a better world, and pursuing university study can have positive outcome for everyone, right? So it's just you are making the point. Literacy can help to create a better world, and pursuing university study can have positive outcome for everyone. Um, Use a formal and non-emotive language. We have discussed it before, and qualify your argument. So when you have an argument, you have to limit that in some sort of hedging as well. When you say early marriage is bad for girls, the word bad here is very emotive. What is bad? How bad is bad? But when you write and qualify that, it has become a lot better statement. Early marriage lowers the opportunity for girls to get education. So that's how bad it is, But you qualify your argument that early marriage, when girls get married at a very early age, it lowers the opportunity for girls to get education. Women are better than men, so you need to qualify that. Are women always better than men, or are men always better than women? You can qualify that by saying that in jobs that require patience, such as being a kindergarten teacher, women are better than men. And saya kira ini poin yang sangat penting dalam menulis secara akademis, academic writing, karena kita harus bisa istilahnya qualify your argument. Argumennya itu harus dibatasi sehingga lebih masuk akal dan tidak memberikan pernyataan yang serampangan seperti itu. Kalau kita misalnya bilang early marriage is bad for girls, itu agak kurang jelas karena bad, siapa yang menentukan badnya itu seperti apa? Bad itu subjektif kan. Tapi kalau kita bilang early marriage lowers the opportunity for girls to get education, itu jelas gitu, lebih jelas gitu, karena kita akan mengatakan bahwa pernikahan dini itu mengurangi kesempatan bagi remaja putri untuk mendapatkan pendidikan. Jadi kita selalu berusaha memberikan pernyataan yang qualified istilahnya. Jadi ada buktinya dan secara artinya itu lebih objektif. Jadi tidak hanya merupakan pernyataan yang subjektif. Women are better than men. Ya, pernyataan yang sangat mengeneralisir ya. Tapi kita bisa qualify ya dengan mengatakan in jobs that require patience, such as being a kindergarten teacher, women are better than men. When we talk about academic writing, so academic writing is not only when you are writing assignment as what you are doing now, but when you are taking a test like an IELTS test. If you take an IELTS test in a writing test, that's academic writing as well. So if you write something like this, you can get more points because they could see that you understand the nature and the requirement of an academic writing piece. Ya, jadi kalau saya mengatakan academic style itu sebenarnya dalam arti luas gitu, karena academic writing itu juga dipergunakan dalam tes. Jadi kalau ikut mengambil tes IELTS ada bagian writingnya, menulisnya, ya kalau kita bisa menuliskan dengan kalimat-kalimat seperti ini, nilainya akan lebih tinggi karena memang ini bentuk-bentuk yang diharapkan untuk digunakan oleh kandidat yang sedang mengambil tes IELTS tersebut. Okay, so that's how you need to improve your writing ability. Now let's move on to a little bit correct convention for using sources. Yeah, so the referencing commonly asked questions. I think I have discussed it with Ibu Mutia earlier, that you could actually use a software. Ya, jadi mungkin kalau sudah waktunya nanti menulis akan bisa menggunakan software Mendeley yang tinggal di-download dan menggunakannya itu akan sangat praktis. Jadi kalau sudah mendownload software Mendeley itu mudah sekali. Jadi tidak perlu mengetik secara referensi yang dipergunakan atau APA atau MLA, mereka akan otomatis tinggal klik saja, ada buttonnya yang secara otomatis mengubah semua format itu. Jadi referensi pun langsung gitu. Jadi itu sangat mudah. Nah, yang perlu saya tekankan di sini sebenarnya mungkin mahasiswa akan bertanya kenapa sih saya perlu mereferensi itu? Why should I reference? So how important is that? Ada beberapa hal yang membuat referensi itu penting gitu, ya. Salah satunya ya kita ini kan dalam lingkup akademis universitas ya. Dan setiap orang itu akan memberikan sumbangan-sumbangannya dalam keilmuannya gitu. Referensi ini karena dia ada publikasi tahunnya akan memberikan ide gitu. Seberapa banyak yang si penulis ini sudah baca dan seberapa banyak ilmu itu sudah berkembang gitu. Dan reference itu juga atribusi untuk orang-orang sebelum kita yang mengerjakan hal yang mirip atau topik yang sama seperti itu. So this is an attribution for those people who wrote before us or who did research similar to what we are doing now previously. So this is an attribution. Jadi kita menghargai orang-orang yang meneliti sebelum kita. Jadi ibaratnya kalau kita menulis laporan akademis atau menulis skripsi, bentuk-bentuk academic writing, ada orang-orang sebelum kita yang sudah menuliskan tentang hal itu dan di mana kita dalam percakapan keilmuan yang ditunjukkan oleh tulisan kita itu bisa dilihat dari referensi. Itu merupakan penghargaan kepada penulis orang-orang sebelum kita yang sudah mendalami bidang tersebut, dan kita kemudian akan menulis sesuatu yang menambahkan khazanah penulisan atau keilmuan di bidang tersebut. Jadi kalau misalnya penerjemahan, mungkin ya sekian ratus tahun kan ada teori-teori penerjemahan dan kita paham itu gitu. Dan sekarang kita menulis tentang penerjemahan dalam konteks Indonesia di mana kultur memang sangat penting. Jadi dengan memberikan referensi itu kita mengakui kita bukan yang pertama menulis tentang penerjemahan dan kultur, tapi ada orang-orang yang sudah menerjemahkan itu. Dan itu intinya sebenarnya dari academic writing. It's a conversation between scholars. Jadi ada percakapan, ada dialog antara orang-orang yang berkecimpung dalam bidang yang sama. What I should reference, ya yang harus di reference itu adalah pernyataan-pernyataan yang memang khas dan ditulis oleh orang tertentu. Jadi artinya begini, tidak semua hal itu harus dikutip gitu. Kalau misalnya bilang Jakarta kota terbesar di Indonesia, probably you don't need to find a reference for that because it's known as a fact. Ya, jadi kalau misalnya di Jakarta kota terbesar di Indonesia, yang nggak usah repot-repot, ini kutipan dari siapa gitu. Jadi itu karena itu fact. Cuman ada hal-hal tertentu yang sangat spesifik yang disebutkan oleh orang dan kita harus memberikan penghargaan kepada orang yang menemukan itu. Misalnya kata, misalnya power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, or something like that. So it has to be attributed to the first person who said that because it's not yours. So that's why how you referenced it. And in things like poetry, probably just as an example, yeah, if you like Sapari Djoko Damono berjalan ke arah barat, aku dan bayangan tidak pernah bertengkar, siapa di antara kami yang membuat bayang-bayang. It's a beautiful, wonderful, wonderful poems. And it uses words that are very familiar. Kata-katanya kan sangat biasa, tapi menjadi tidak biasa karena dia dirangkaikan menjadi suatu puisi. Dan kita tidak bisa mengklaim itu kan, jadi harus selalu ada referensi. That's the idea. Kalau kalimat-kalimatnya sangat bermakna dan menjadi khas, itu kita harus memberikan penghargaan kepada orang yang menulis itu dan tidak semata-mata mengakui itu sebagai tulisan kita. Jadi karena ada referensi, kita mengakui bahwa itu bukan hasil karya kita tapi merupakan kutipan. Kalau referencing style, what referencing style should I use? I think you're using the APA 7. So if you use Mendeley, it's all taken care of. But if you are still doing manual, yeah. So but it's probably, I think it's a good way of learning. Jadi mungkin awalnya memang dengan melihat cara membuat secara manual, nanti saudara akan memahami begitu ya, apa sebenarnya yang harus, informasi apa sebenarnya yang harus diikut sertakan dalam informasi itu gitu. Dan masalah kemudian harus cetak miring, harus ada titik, ada koma dalam kurung, yaitu konvensi, karena harus seragam dalam penulisan jurnal itu. Semua jurnal itu harus menggunakan konvensi yang sama. So I think that's the idea. How should I reference? I think we would go into another session for that. It's quite technical. Now, again, quoting, paraphrasing, or summarizing an evidence of understanding what you read. Academic writing is all about, presenting the evidence of what you have read. Jadi, academic writing itu yang memberikan bukti apa yang sudah kita baca dan seberapa paham kita akan teks yang sudah kita baca itu. So, whether you quote, you paraphrase, or summarize, it's your own choice, it's your own call, because you know the connections between what you are going to quote, paraphrase, and summarize with the studies that you are doing. Jadi kita yang tahu apakah itu quotation itu ada hubungan langsung dengan studi kita, apakah harus diparaphrase, diartikan sesuai dengan pemahaman kita, atau diberikan summary-nya. Artikel ini sebenarnya tentang X, seperti itu. So this is an evidence of understanding what you read. Clear structure and layout. Again, I think you have to refer to your university handbook. I think when you're writing, this is the third part of our discussion today. Sudah planning, pengumpulan data, kita akan menulis, dan kita harus melihat strukturnya itu berdasarkan your university handbook. Yeah, so I think I have seen your university handbook, and it's quite detailed. So you always have to refer to it when you are in doubt. So they give everything there, so you have to do it. rather than in the end you have to redo it and it takes time ya. Jadi sebelum menulis ya usahakan konsultasikan dengan handbook yang diberikan pihak universitas supaya tidak mengulangi lagi kesalahan-kesalahan yang akan sangat membuang waktu gitu ya dalam penulisannya. Ada 6 steps untuk effective writing yang mudah saja ya. Understanding the assignment questions. So what your assignment questions is, or what is your own title? Topik yang dipilih untuk ditulis itu apa? Jadi kita tahu kalau misalnya menulis tentang culture and translation, so you are focusing on culture and translation. Is it culture and translation in broadcast or culture and translation in printed? So you have a very narrow sort of not narrow, I mean you are focusing on a particular thing and it stops you from going here and there ya. Jadi bisa lebih fokus kalau kita sudah paham apa yang akan kita bahas. Finding the specific focus in it, drawing a map of initial ideas around the focus, reading around the focus, reviewing your map of ideas, and making logical outlines. So this is after you prepare, after you read, after you collect your data, or after you gone into your, what you call it, the apprenticeship. Sesudah magang, nah kemudian menulis ya seperti ini langkah-langkah yang langkah-langkah yang harus dilakukan ya. So you find a specific focus in it, culture and translation, and then you draw a map of initial ideas around the ideas of culture and translation, what is involved in culture and translation, what is the mechanism of translating something while looking at the cultural icons or artifacts in that, and then you read around the focus, reviewing your map of ideas and making a logical outline. What would you do first? I know it's a very good translation if you want to look at literary works. I think it's translated by Melanie Budianta. I think a book from Arundhati Roy called God of Small Things. Called God of Small Things, and the title is very good. It's translated wonderfully into Tuhan yang Maha Kecil. So it's quite difficult to translate God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy or Roy Arundhati into Tuhan yang Maha Kecil, but because you learn about that, because you understand the culture, you understand your Indonesian is very good, so you could have the idea that usually we say Tuhan Maha Besar, but this is God of Small Things, which could probably Tuhan yang Maha Kecil. And what is this about? And then you have to read the book. There's another translation from, I think, Bone Setter's Daughter. So it's a book called Bone Setter's Daughter, and then it's translated into Indonesian, Putri Tabib Tulang. So you have to look at how it sounds, right? Tabib Tulang, sounds as alliteration. So it might be a good translation when you put it into cover of a book, Putri Tabib Tulang, as it was translated from Bone Setter's Daughter. So you get the idea of what you're going to write, how you come about that one, and that's what research is all about. It makes it interesting because you are incorporating a lot of different knowledge into as an input to your work. And when you talk about ideas, a coherent flow of ideas, then you can use cohesive devices, reference pronouns. So screen painting, also known as serigraphy, it is a method of creating an image on paper or fabric by pressing ink through screen. So you don't repeat screen painting and then screen painting, but you use pronouns, but you use it sparingly. In English is one of the language that use pronouns actually, so make good use of it rather than repeating screen painting and screen painting. But then also, okay, I'll go to, but also then repetition, on the other hand, is also important. When you need a key noun to be repeated for clarity, you could repeat it, but using a different way of doing that. When you write screen printing, it's a method of creating an image on paper or fabric by pressing through a screen. Now, instead of using screen printing again, you can use the technique is used for both making fine art prints and for commercial application, such as printing company logos on coffee mugs and t-shirts. And then you write a significant characteristic of screen printing. You are using again the word screen printing is that a greater thickness can be applied to the substrate than is possible with other printing techniques. Given the simplicity of the application process, here you are using a different ways, your nominalization. You don't use the verb apply, but you use the noun application, application process. Screen printing is popular art form. So the academic writing to some extent is probably, there's an art in it. So you have to, you need to do, to get used to, the structure of that. And then, as I mentioned before, there are many books that you can actually consult on academic writing. So here, you can use repetition using parallel words or synonyms for methods, screen printing, and nominalization as given in the application process here. The word application from verb apply. And using logical connector, this is more technical. Uh, use different logical connectors appropriately. In the end, the final total costs were considered too high. Consequently, the project was abandoned. So, you are using connectors. But then again, everything needs to be in the right modicum. You don't overuse connectors, just like in this quotes here. If people stop smoking, it might delay the onset of liver disease as a result. You know. In addition, the government could help by raising the tobacco sales tax. However, the government resources are limited. Therefore, a new tax policy may thus be delayed. So when I say using logical connector, use it as it's necessary. Don't start every single word with a logical connector. I think I got experience with my students in IELTS training practice when I say that using a logical connector might add to your point, then they start every single sentence with a connector, which make it very tedious, and I don't think you will get good mark for that because it's obvious that you don't know how to use it properly. That you have to show that you know how to use it properly when it's necessary. Parallelism. So this is the balanced construction of parallel structures. When you use similar grammatical forms, adjective and nouns, you have the example. This essay discusses the benefit of a university degree, better employment opportunities, secure future, and continued professional enhancement. So all of the three here, better employment opportunities is a noun, secure future is a noun, continued professional enhancement is a noun phrase. So the form, they are all nouns. Okay. Also in similar sentence structure, the success of the program depends on the involvement of both state and the community. State involvement would secure some funding for the project. Community involvement would ensure its continuity. So the same similar structure. So this is parallelism. So this is just part of the editing. So you would do this at the end when you are basically writing your report. You look at parallelism. Is it always on the same grammatical form or same similar structure? So if it's not, then you need to change it. And this one is also a technical one. So you look at accurate use of language, grammar, which is agreement. Probably you must have learned it in grammar. Subject for agreement, verbs. What kind of verbs? Transitive, intransitive. You use articles and preposition, punctuation, incomplete sentence, and word order. Which one are the main ideas? Which one are the more important? Which one is only subordinate ideas? Overlong or rambling sentence, I wouldn't give it to you. I think you understand what it means. Vocabulary, word use, and spelling. Most of the time, I think this software might help you if you are using a US spelling over your British English spelling. So, yeah, but the most important thing is the consistency. I think your university handbook gives all that. Ya. Jadi, kalau melihat hal-hal yang teknis seperti ini, mungkin bisa melihat ke handbooknya. Spelling seperti apa yang diharapkan, apakah you know American spelling or British spelling, and some other things that might be included in the handbook. Okay, we are getting to the last part of it before we head to the question and answer sessions. The key takeaways here is that writing is technical. When I said writing is technical, you need to keep writing to avoid being mechanical. Ya, jadi seperti saya ungkapkan pada awal-awalnya tadi, menulis itu hanya teknis, gitu, technical. Jadi kadang kita bisa menggunakan ya katakanlah template seperti ini, ada template untuk introduction, untuk abstract itu seperti ini. Jadi kita bisa menggunakan itu. So you can use it and to avoid being mechanical, but somehow you have to imagine that your writing should not sound mechanical. Ya, dalam artian jangan membosankan gitu tulisannya karena kaku gitu, terlalu kaku. Jadi ada sedikit fleksibilitas seperti yang bisa fleksibel seperti saya bilang tadi, tapi tidak mengurangi objektivitas dari kalimat yang digunakan. Writing long assignment is a long process. Make it social. So I think these days everything is social. Yeah, I know that writing long assignment would take time, but you can make it social. So if you feel like you are going to your friend's house and then sitting on a big table and then you type and then discuss, if that's how it works today, so you could do it. Yeah. Jadi karena sekarang semuanya bersifat sosial, kadang sekarang orang ke kafe hanya untuk mengetik gitu di tengah ya mungkin sebelum COVID ya, di tengah kerumunan itu, dan itu yang dilakukan sekarang. So ya, kalau memang itu yang dilakukan tidak apa-apa. Writing is social. Jadi bisa mengetik dengan teman lain gitu. Kalau dulu kan orang biasanya mengerjakan tugasnya itu mengurung diri di kamar, nggak boleh diganggu gitu. Tapi kalau sekarang itu social, so it's okay. Sometimes you need to exchange ideas. Ya, kadang-kadang kita bertukar pikiran sewaktu menulis gitu. Jadi tidak apa-apa gitu. Jadi make it social. Keep it warm. Do everything every day. Karena menulis itu dalam waktu yang lama, seringkali kita kehilangan interest. Yeah, so you lose your interest. But keep it warm. Do everything every day. So it depends on what time do you think you could perform best. Jadi tergantung dari jam berapa kita merasa kita paling siap untuk menulis, ya kita langsung mengerjakan gitu. Kalau misalnya agak kurang fokus, mungkin bisa melakukan ganti fontnya lah gitu. Ya, so you change the font, looking at something that you need to improve. Adakah satu kata, dua kata yang kita ganti, ya at least every day you touch it. Jadi setiap hari kita mengerjakan itu supaya kita tidak kehilangan momentum seperti itu. Ya, dan suatu kali ketika kita merasa kita sangat fokus, itu saat tepat kita untuk menulis dan mengapresiasi, mengekspresikan pemikiran kita. Jadi memang menulis itu seperti you have ups and downs. Kadang kita tidak bisa memaksakan menulis saat itu saja pada waktu kita sedang sangat lelah seperti itu. Tapi karena kita harus mengerjakan tiap hari, mungkin kalau sedang lelah ya iseng-iseng ganti-ganti sedikit lah, tidak membutuhkan fokus yang sangat besar gitu. Keep a writing buddy system to keep the ball rolling. So this is interesting. I'll try to with my students. Kita bisa menggunakan buddy system, artinya saudara bisa mencari teman yang bisa diajak bekerja sama gitu. Dan kemudian saudara memberikan informasi kepada teman saudara itu jam berapa biasanya saudara menulis. Katakanlah saudara menulis, saya biasanya pagi jam 7 gitu. Ya udah, teman saudara itu nanti setiap pagi jam 7 dia akan menelpon saudara atau mau dengan WhatsApp, dengan apapun. Kamu sudah menulis tidak hari ini gitu. Ya. Dan saudara juga melakukan yang sama kepada teman saudara ya. Tapi ini dilakukan atas asas kolegial ya. So, jangan mengganggu gitu. Tahu tiba-tiba lagi bimbingan dengan supervisornya, saudara tiba-tiba WhatsApp, sudah nulis belum hari ini ya, seperti itu. But the idea is that you have to do it every day. Ya, jadi ada teman yang mengingatkan gitu. Teman yang mengingatkan itu dengan niat baik gitu ya. Jadi supaya hari ini ayo nulis 1 jam, setengah jam saja, yang penting sudah menulis gitu. Ya. English is not our mother tongue, but this is more an asset rather than liability. So what I wanted to say is that we know that English is not a mother tongue, so we have to think harder if we want to do something, but use it as an asset rather than liability. Ya, jadi artinya begini, kita bahasa Inggris itu kan bukan bahasa pertama kita ya, mungkin ada yang bahasa kedua, mungkin ada yang bahasa ketiga gitu, dan itu berarti menulis dalam bahasa Inggris itu sulit. Tapi jangan anggap ini suatu beban gitu, anggaplah ini suatu aset. Karena apa? Karena kita akan selalu berpikir keras untuk menghasilkan suatu kalimat yang baik gitu. Ya, jadi jangan dianggap itu suatu liability, tapi itu aset karena kita jadi berhati-hati gitu. Orang Inggris pun karena dia sudah merupakan bahasa pertamanya, kadang-kadang mereka bisa ceroboh juga kalau menulis gitu kan. Sementara kita ini bahasa kedua, jadi kita sangat berhati-hati. Dan dalam menulis itu, tulis satu kalimat dan cobalah berpikir kalau orang lain membaca kalimat ini mereka paham tidak ya? Kalau saudara sendiri pun tidak paham kalimat itu, berarti kalimatnya kurang jelas. Jadi harus diperbaiki gitu. Jadi selalu melihat itu, dan ini proses yang sangat panjang dan melelahkan, tetapi hasilnya akan sangat baik. Jadi kalau saudara melakukan ini sekian tahun sesudah saudara menulis itu, melihat kembali tidak ada penyesalan gitu. Ya jadi karena sudah maksimal gitu melakukan itu. Ya jadi selalu berusaha menulis semaksimal mungkin dalam keadaan kondisi kesehatan yang maksimal sehingga menghasilkan tulisan yang mudah dipahami. Ya, keep working on it until you are happy with the sentence. Ya, jadi sampai kita merasa bahwa kalimat itu sudah cukup jelas dan sudah cukup bagus, sudah bisa diterima untuk level akademis, ya itu berarti sudah ada bisa melanjutkan lagi menulis kalimat berikutnya. Saya rasa demikian, Bu Mutia, mungkin.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Made. I have so many notes on my book right now. There are so many things, new knowledge that I got from you, so I really
Okay.
appreciate it. So we got some question on chat box.
Okay.
Surprisingly, it is from the lecturer of English department. Nanti mahasiswa nyesel ya, mahasiswa juga harus bertanya, wajib bertanya. Okay, I'm Desi, one of the lecturers from English department. My question is, how to develop students' critical thinking related to student skill in writing? And the next question is, okay, there are two questions from Ibu Desi. How to increase or boost the students' confidence in writing? Yeah, this is one of the problem in our department actually, Pak Made. The confidence in writing, because most of the students, when they write the final report, they tend to find their senior final project from
Okay.
previous year and make copy of several parts of it. Please, Pak Made.
Okay. Student critical thinking. Yeah, I mean it's quite a, how do you say this? I think there are some books if you want to use from Cottrell. Like I can give you some of the references for that. But I think critical thinking. I think in terms of reading, we need to start from the very bottom of it and then going up to critical thinking and understanding genre and something like that. I believe in what I think is a model of reading by Ware Khalifa, 2009. There are stages of writing, just like, say, for instance, you are writing, probably the process is the same, writing poetry. First is that you need to equip students of, being able to distinguish the words. First is the words and the chunks of words and the sentences. So you have to understand that first. And then the second one, and then you get the layers and layers to cover. So before you go to critical thinking, I think you have to be aware of the student's ability in reading on a superficial level, if I can use that word. See what I mean? So before you go to critical thinking, it's just understanding the text. But it is a difficult process. So you have to guide the students on understanding that text before getting to critical thinking. But once you get to, but the students master the sort of superficial level, understanding the text as it is, and then you move to critical thinking by asking questions and opinions about what they read. But before you understand the more basic, I don't think you can go to critical thinking. I think that's I hope that answers the questions, because critical thinking itself is it's a difficult concept, but you have to do it bit by bit. You have to, students need to be able to understand the text as it is before moving on. I think from my experience, I can tell that we cannot adopt all the technique that is used in universities, outside Indonesia, because we know that the level of English in our school systems probably is not on the same level as in American students, right? Because it's obvious in United States, students in their school sort of level, high school or elementary school, their English is probably much higher than the same level here in Indonesia. So being always aware of that fact, I think, help you to give a more relevant materials to the student. I can tell from my own experience that once I used to teach in a school whose English is, is grade 10, student of grade 10. I believe that their English is quite good. And I gave them one literature book called A Red Badge of Courage. And it didn't work. Not because they don't understand the book, but because of the interest. So this is an Indonesian student who are not interested in probably in reading something about America in 1920s. Much in the same way, when we give students material, it has to be on their level. So that's what I'm going to say. Give it on the lab level so they can understand that. Once they master that, and then you move to critical thinking. But you cannot attempt forcing critical thinking at the level when they are not ready for that. Confidence, I think everything comes with writing, and then it doesn't have to be academic writing is a level where when you are quite proficient in writing. So before you get to academic level, then probably you can just give them writing, but not labeling academic and not giving them rules. This is how you have to write. The one that I gave here is the academic writing with the rules. But before this, actually, probably in the first semester and second semester, you need to give them just writing. Just writing to get their confidence and ability to structure sentences and doing editing and revising and all the stuff before going on into academic writing and all the set of rules. I've been teaching academic writing for a number of years, and then if immediately you give the rules to students, this is what academic writing, this is not academic writing for that level, then it is not working. And I hope that I give the right level today, because as a when you present, you always think about, because I don't know the student, is it the right sort of material for them at this time, where they're progressing to this type, or it's too difficult or it's too easy. So it's just like it's a difficult judgment most of the times. Does it answer the question? Confidence, I mean, well, sometimes when it's plagiarizing, it has to come with not a punishment, but an understanding that you are here spending money, spending time. Your parents probably pay for your fees, and then if you plagiarize, you don't learn anything.
Mm.
So what good is it? So, but if you come here and you learn, and that's what your parents want you to do, they pay for your education and they want you to be educated. So if you could give that some sort of understanding, probably would help. And probably a strict rules that if you are caught plagiarizing, so sometimes you need to go into that avenue, although I don't want to do that. And one thing, if I can say something about this from my own experience, sometimes when students plagiarize, in my case, I always look at myself. Did I give them an assignment that is too difficult for them to do? Or did I give them assignment that is up to their level of knowledge and competence? Because most of the times, lecturer give them something that's way too difficult to them. Nobody wants to fail in the course. And so they resort to plagiarism and copying from other people because they are out of their depth. So it is some sort of a reflective teaching in my own words, that you always need to, when students plagiarize, saying it comes back to me. I mean, I start thinking, did I give them too difficult assignment? And did I equip them with, enough skills for them to do that? If you say, just an example, like if you ask students to write about nature, you ask them to go out and write about the garden around your campus, have you equipped them with the words, the trees and colors and you know the ideas of that? And if you have equipped them with the right equipment or tools for them to do the assignment, that's fine. But if you give them something that is very, very difficult for them to do, they plagiarize, they copy, and then it's not the student's fault. It's probably, most of the times, is the teacher or lecturer's failure to see that this kind of problem might come. Okay, does it answer the question?
So we cannot judge them the same way ya Pak Made, because they
Yes,
come from different background of
yes, I
education.
know. Yes, so we have to look at that way. Apa mungkin tugasnya terlalu berat gitu?
Yeah, yeah.
Apakah kita sudah membekali mereka dengan keilmuan atau skills yang cukup gitu? Karena kita kan kadang tidak memahami itu dan mahasiswa kan maunya lulus, dia nggak lulus kan, jadi akan
Maunya nilainya
diusahakan.
bagus ya.
Iya kan gitu. Tapi ya saya kira plagiarisme itu bukan dari kita menyalahkan siswa saja, tapi juga dari pihak pengajarnya juga gitu. Apakah memberikan tugas yang terlalu sulit? Ya itu kalau tugas terlalu sulit kan, ya kadang-kadang kita kan tugas terlalu sulit satu kelas nilainya tidak memadai. Nanti akhirnya gimana? Bisa nggak satu kelas tidak lulus gitu kan? Jadi kerepotan juga. Yeah, I think in my experience, you know, you have to calibrate what your assignment is. Jadi kita lihat assignment. Saya kurang tahu prosesnya. Misalnya mungkin saja assignmentnya didiskusikan dulu dengan pihak pengajar. Ini kira-kira assignmentnya ini memungkinkan tidak untuk dikerjakan oleh siswa dengan level mereka, misalnya tingkat 1, tingkat 2, tingkat 3 gitu. Dan rata-rata kemampuan siswanya gitu. Itu memungkinkan tidak? Kalau tidak memungkinkan, saya rasa tidak apa-apa untuk mundur gitu. Saya sendiri juga karena saya mengajar literatur, saya merasa jangan terlalu dipaksakan untuk baca sastra gitu loh, karena belum pada tahap yang seperti itu nanti mereka nggak akan bisa mengerjakan tugasnya dengan baik dan akhirnya plagiarisme dan tujuan kita mendidik kan tidak tercapai. Jadi berikan saja misalnya bahan bacaan yang bagus, yang memang bisa dianalisa, tapi bukan dalam level sastra yang sangat sulit gitu. Jadi ya kadang-kadang saya juga sebagai dosen kan ada kebanggaan dosen untuk dilihat sebagai wah ini sastra nih bapak ini gitu kan.
Iya.
Padahal nanti memberikan tugasnya terus dosennya ngomongnya ya mungkin dosen ada kesempatan sendiri berdialog dengan keilmuan dengan bahasa-bahasa yang tinggi, tapi kalau untuk mahasiswa ya kita usahakan ya supaya mereka mendapatkan sesuatu, jadi mereka tidak kapok gitu ya. Jadi mereka akan kapok kalau tugasnya terlalu berat dan tidak ada pembekalan yang memadai dari pihak pengajar. Saya rasa demikian. Ada pertanyaan yang belum saya jawab?
Iya, ini Ibu Sari, our lecturers also from English department. Okay. How many references in minimum that diploma 3 students should have in writing their final project? As per I acknowledge, for such an article should be 10 minimum. Should they take all from books, or is there any standard of how much the percentage for the books and for the journal?
Pak Made, may I say a word? May I say a
Oh,
word?
ini orangnya Pak Made.
Oh yeah.
Hi Pak Made, nice to meet you here virtually. You know what?
Thank you.
Listening to you like you read my mind. I was nodding all the times before. So yeah, I truly agree with you that reading is the most important thing. The most what do you call that is reading is significant point in carrying out the whole process of writing. You know what? And that's the problem. I think that's the problem of. I'm sorry. I'm not saying like underestimating Asian, but Southeast Asian people. The problem with us is in reading, because
yes, that's true.
Yeah, because that's what I found when I was studying also, that most of my friends coming from Southeast Asian, we have a problem in reading. And then when we did that in our study, it just like killing me softly, you know?
Yeah, sorry, I understand it.
Yeah, and then I think that's why the question that I gave to you regarding to about this reference, you know, because last time, 2 weeks ago, that I I translated an article of one of D4, Diploma 4 student, which is brought by the lecturer to become an article for the journal. And then I was shocked because the references is less than 5. And then three references that I tried to find in Google, I found none. And then all the information put into the references also not complete. And I suppose for D4 students that they are more eligible, you know, in academic writing rather than D3. So that's why my question to you. So what about the reference? What about the reference that the standard for this D3 should have? Because if I'm not mistaken, in journal is minimum 10, And then also, should all the references coming from the books, or would it be all right they take from the journals? And what about the percentage of how much for the books and how much the
Okay.
percentage for the journals?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pak
I
Manis.
think
Thank you.
okay. Thank you for the questions. I think there's no straight answer for how many references that is needed. I think it's you can discuss it among you, and probably I don't know whether your university handbook needs to be approved by Dicty or any other institution. But the thing is that with number of quote references, I don't think that's the most important thing, but how relevant it is to the work that you do. So we need to be honest with our jobs, with whatever we are doing, that it's not the number, but it's the quality. You could always add like 140 uh, references, but if it's not related, then someone someday would find out. Because if I read a journal and I find it quite interesting, I'll go and try to find it. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I find it's not very useful, but they included that. So I don't think there is a quotation for that. I mean, there is exactly what number of that, but I think you could discuss it with your own, because I'm not making a call on how many D3 students would use it, but I think you should go for relevance. If it's 10, yeah, it's 10 at least. Um, the most important thing is the relationship within the, why you quote that, because you don't quote it just to make it look good, but just quote it because it adds to the conversation of that particular topic. It adds to the conversation of particular discipline. I think we need to look at the fundamental ideas of referencing, is that like we are on this together. We are doing the same thing in same topic, so we have to know who are talking in this discipline. So that's references. Okay, you have this book and have the journals. uh, Books and journals, most of the time nowadays people would look for journals because it's more recent, but I don't say that it's not important to quote textbooks, because there are some ideas that come from textbook. So the first point of departure is the textbook, and then you need to look at something else that is more recent. So that's my argument. But again, um, I don't think we could limit, not using books and only using, say, journals, because in the writing it's obvious, which one, uh, you know, what you are writing, and that would reflect whether it's more important to consult journal or to consult the textbooks. I hope that answer the questions, because I usually go against very rigid sort of rules, that when you said that you have to include some publication that are at least 10 years from the time that you are writing it. But there are some journals that is written from the year 2000, which is like 20 years, but it shows something. When you are doing a research on something and then the last publication is the year 2000, it means there hasn't much, there has been not sufficient, there hasn't been any sufficient research done to that particular topic. So it means that that's an avenue, that's something that you can do. So it doesn't mean a bad thing, but it means that that discipline has not developed since 2000. So I'm going to do something to that. So so that's how we've used to use the limit, that only something that is written from 2010 that I could use, because basically you could find something else. You could argue otherwise, that something from works that is published in 1990s that are still relevant today, and since nobody has used that references, it means that, or it could be, it's possible that there hasn't much been any advancement in that particular field. So that's our opportunity to do something. Okay,
Is that enough, Ibu Sari?
kira-kira saya
Yes,
kira
thank you.
misalnya,
Yeah.
ya kalau misalnya kita melihat batas, saya kira ya memang ada yang memberikan batas 10 tahun, tapi kan kadang-kadang kita melihat ada artikel yang bagus dari tahun 2000, tapi kok tidak ada, misalnya kita lihat di Google Scholars ya, kok tidak ada orang yang menggunakan ini lagi.
Yeah.
berarti tidak ada perkembangan dalam ilmu itu. Berarti kita bisa menggunakan itu juga. Tidak berarti kita tidak bisa menggunakan itu. Textbooks kalau yang seminal yang tahun 1930, kalau misalnya di antropologi itu masih banyak yang dipergunakan gitu. Tahun 1930, etnografi dari tahun 70 mungkin ada Spreadley, itu bukunya tua sekali. Tapi kalau itu tidak dipahami dulu, ya tidak bisa memahami yang lebih kontemporer seperti itu. Saya kira argumen kita saja yang membuktikan itu. Jadi tidak bisa mungkin di kotak-kotakan hanya tidak boleh ini, tidak boleh itu, tapi argumen kita. Dan kalau dosen saya bilang kalau di Bristol dulu tidak perlu banyak, ada tulisan yang cuma 5 referensinya, tapi dia sangat kuat bergulat dengan teori, dengan argumennya, bisa menjadi tulisan yang bagus gitu. Ya kadang-kadang kita memang karena waktunya kepepet gitu ya, jadi dikasihnya kita berikan referensi yang banyak gitu. Tapi pergulatan keilmuannya tidak terlihat dari tulisannya. Saya kira mungkin kalau kita melihat ke kualitas, mungkin ya kita lihat tidak hanya dengan jumlah, tapi pergulatan kita terhadap teks-teks yang kita kutip itu terlihat tidak di jurnal submission atau essay yang kita buat itu. Saya kira demikian.
Terima kasih Pak Made. Mungkin tambahan sedikit Pak Made. Jadi kalau kami kan kalau di final project di TA kita itu kan ada previous works dan theoretical background. Jadi kebanyakan dari mahasiswa itu mengambil previous works itu dari TA-TA mahasiswa yang sebelumnya. Dan terkadang disitulah plagiarism tadi, copy paste. Nah copy paste dengan mengambil satu sumber, nanti diparafrasekan saja kalimat-kalimat yang sudah dibuat oleh teman-temannya gitu. Dan ini yang menjadi mungkin saya yang terlalu idealisme apa bagaimana, dan ini terjadi sering, dan kita menjustifikasi membenarkan sikap dan tindakan dari mahasiswa kalau di saya sudah benar-benar salah gitu ya. Tapi ketika kita ada standar-standar tertentu yang harus diikuti, yang diset oleh perguruan tinggi, dan jadi justifikasi terhadap ini. Mungkin itu yang bisa saya bagi dengan mahasiswa, bahwa plagiarism itu, as you told us before, plagiarism is for me is totally zero. From scale 0 to 10, 0 is the highest, is totally zero. I really cannot tolerate plagiarism gitu loh. Jadi walaupun bagaimanapun sebaiknya justifikasi itu tidak ada, kan begitu ya Pak Made ya?
Ya, idealnya seperti itu. Ya mungkin dari pihak universitas bisa, tapi mungkin ya harus diajarkan dari awal mungkin ya, sejak awal diberi penekanan begitu, misalnya harus menggunakan bahan yang aslinya, jadi tidak menggunakan kutipan dari kutipan lain gitu, tidak ada second citation, tapi menggunakan sumber resminya. Dan itu mungkin kembali kepada pihak universitas, apakah ada jumlah buku yang memadai untuk mahasiswa pinjam gitu. Kalau saya selalu memikirnya dari sudut mahasiswa gitu ya, kita memberikan tugas, kita memberikan sedikit kesempatan mereka gitu ya. Saya nggak tahu juga kalau bisa difotokopi mudah, itu ya itu masalah lain. Tapi apakah kemudian bahan yang originalnya itu ada atau tidak untuk mereka, supaya mereka nggak mengutip dari kakak kelasnya kan gitu. Bahannya itu ada tidak di perpustakaan atau bisa diperoleh di mana. Saya rasa seperti itu. Ya, memang harus plagiarisme itu harus ditekankan bahwa itu salah gitu. Tapi seringkali kita juga sedikit refleksi terhadap bagaimana kita memberikan materi itu sendiri. Saya kira demikian.
Terima kasih banyak Pak Made. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Ibu Sari. Okay, another question, Pak Made, from this is our students. Excuse me, sir, I'm Yoga Octavians from class 3A English department. I'd like to ask you a question. Do you have some tips for students to increase their vocabularies, especially in academical writing? Personally, I'm not quite confident in choosing which one is fulfill academical writing's requirements. Jadi vocabulary dalam hal akademis nih Pak Made, bagaimana cara meningkatkannya?
Okay, thank you. That's from Yoga ya.
Yeah, Yoga.
I think, well, writing is hard work, so if you want to improve your vocabulary, it comes again from reading and then taking notes. So what I did when I was a student is basically, if you got one particular essay or journal submissions that you like, you make notes of it. So you can photocopy that and then underline some phrases that you find uh, very interesting. Some of the words that you find very interesting and keep in separate books and things like that. This is just like some sort of treasure hunt. You don't know when you are going to use those phrases, so you have to, you need to have some sort of notebook to keep all your new vocabularies that you lifted from other sources. So then with that, once you are writing, you could just refer to that. I think I can use this one. So it's just like creating some sort of a template. uh, you could also just buy some books about that, from Palgrave Macmillan, from Oxford, from Cambridge. You probably, um, your university started collecting that, because I think that's a good investment, so that students would always have new references, um, because it's it's an entirely new discipline. Academic writing is sort of a new discipline. There's so many things that we could not cover in 1 or 2 hours, but it's up to the student to look for anything that they actually need. And so I think that probably hopes answer the question about vocabularies. Reading, I think, is the only way of being able to find new words. And yeah, so as I said, using references, books. There are many books that is written. If I could just show you one, some of the books I'm selling them. So this kind of books, analyzing case studies, it's quite interesting.
Where's your
Um,
argument?
yeah, so this kind of things, and planning dissertation, and
Oh, it's a
what's
series?
that? Yeah, reading
Oh,
and making notes. So there's small books handy, so you could just, when you
wow.
are, you know. So of course, and there are other books that something like this that I would recommend. This book, yeah. So some of the
Okay.
books, yeah. So this one is quite good. So you can just, straight from the internet,
Mm.
order it. So this kind of books. There's so many books that, well, uh, so you need to put it on as a resource for your students. I think
Mhm.
it's a good investment. So that's one way. If student asks about how do you improve that, these are the references that you could read in. I don't know whether you could do multiple copies of that and put it in the library, because that's the only way students can improve. And I think the lecturer would benefit from that too.
Yeah, yeah,
That's an investment, but it's worthwhile an investment. It goes like for, you can use it for another 5 years and 10 years. Yeah,
yeah, of course.
because
Okay.
I got it
Mhm.
from those. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's very interesting.
Mhm.
And of course, for those who are educated in the States, they would use one particular book. I can't remember the author, but most scholars from graduated from the United States use that book. So yeah, so you could try to use, but before you use those books, you could use academic writing, which is not very academic not very rigid, but from Oshima, I think,
Mhm.
some books from Oshima, so that's more accessible. So then it's a discussion between teachers and lecturers in your institution. In first year, what book do you think, what references do you think they need, just to give them sort of a very good step before you advancing to a more difficult one. So I think, yeah, but we
Oh,
have to understand that yeah, I mean, our high school students English probably, you know well, some schools have better quality, some schools probably
mhm.
are not very strong in that suit. So the first year students, I think that's the duty of all the lecturers, to set them in some sort of a, they need to have a competence that is on that level before they advance.
Mm. Okay. We would be so glad if if you can share the title and the author of the books that you show us before.
Okay, so I will send you which one.
The
I can
best
send
one,
you
Kak
the.
Bade.
I think I like the small one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we would be happy
Uh,
to see that.
I don't know where it is. It's a smaller, so I could send you later on.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Some of the because I got so much different
Okay.
types. Yeah.
I think it's gonna be the last question because the time is up already actually, but
Okay.
that's okay. This is from Oki Haryansha. I'm from class 2B. I am about to ask you a question, sir, regarding to my experience. As I wrote an academic writing, I often had troubles with the word that I want to use, as we know that one word can define many meanings. So I was literally confused in choosing the proper word. Do you have any suggestion regarding that to that matter, sir?
Okay.
Oh,
Thank you for okay.
yeah, okay.
Um, if you want to find the meaning of a word, the only thing that you'd need to consult is a dictionary. So again, investing in a good dictionary is good. But also nowadays, there there's an access to online dictionary. Probably you could
Mm,
go to Cambridge Online Dictionary, Oxford Online Dictionary, and just type it in Google, and they would lead you to that. And it's a just talking dictionary. If you click sort of the loudspeaker icon, that you pronounce it in both British English and American English. So it's very interesting. So I think dictionary is one point of reference. But having said that, I think it needs to be incorporated as well in the teaching in the institution, how you actually use dictionary. Because if you haven't used any dictionaries, it's difficult to use a dictionary. So
mm,
even using dictionary needs a skill. So probably one or two sessions in actually using a dictionary. How do you find the actual meaning? Because there's a technique to that, and students needs to be guided to that. I think that's what OKI needs. A good dictionary, a good
mm.
dictionary, and
Online
then
or printed dictionary is not a problem, right, Pak
it's
Made?
not a problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
because printed
Mm,
dictionaries nowadays it's not available. I think Oxford
yeah.
got a printed dictionary, but with a CD-ROM or a disc on it that you could
Yeah,
use.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
I think the
That's
last time I bought that, what I don't know, a couple of 10,
yeah, yeah,
10,
couple
12
of
years
years
ago,
ago.
10
Yeah,
years
yeah.
ago.
I see.
But nowadays everything is online.
Mm,
It's free, I think. Online CambridgeDictionary.com or something. So you could go
mhm,
there and just find, just type the words. Just type the words. It just the first two, three letters it would appear. So it's very smart. So it's easy. And then you can download it on your app, I think. I think it's supposed to be an app. But then again, I think a university probably might have a preference for a dictionary that students can use. So you could show them the apps that you approve, or any online dictionary that the staff approves. So you are basically using the same dictionary.
mhm.
So
Okay.
I know I put a lot of requests to you. Yeah, because students need to do, because the problem is having online at our fingertips. It doesn't mean that they know what to choose, and they choose the right one, but they need also guidance from the
Of
lecturers.
course, of course. A book is one of big issues in our department actually because there are not many books in English in
Mm,
Indonesia, so it's quite
mm.
difficult to find English version of book in Indonesia. So
Yeah.
we don't have many books, many references in English.
Okay, what do you mean references, as in a dictionary or writing
Uh, yeah, both with
skills book?
dictionaries, books, printed books.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
I think you have to discuss it with the
yeah,
you know
I see.
I believe
Mhm.
there must be that's what I just to say it once again. I think the idea that the death of the library nowadays, I think it's wrong, because
Mm,
library is still needed, whether it's printed or online, because library needs to give access to online books which have been vetted, which has been selected by the lecturers, because
mm,
they know what's good there. So the physical the building needs to be there, but the online one is also needs to be there. So library is still alive. So book libraries, I believe in Indonesia they think like, okay, we don't need library now.
yeah,
So in the place where I used to teach, they just, I don't know, they knock down the library, and I don't know what they.
we have
But I
everything
think,
in our thumbs like now, so
yeah,
we
so
don't need
that's why
library
that's why they think.
anymore.
Yeah, but then the
Yeah,
thing is that you don't know which one is good, which one is bad. So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
might run
I
into
agree.
information that is not. Yeah.
Okay. There is no more question from the student, and also the time is up already, Pak Made.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
the
Many thanks. Many
sharing the
thanks for
knowledge.
inviting me. I hope it's useful. So for
No, we thank
students.
you more. We thank you more. Sudah share so many things. I have so many notes on my book actually. Jadi banyak
Okay, you
hal
can
yang.
contact me if you if that's something that's not clear.
Oh, I
Yeah.
will be happy. I'll be happy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
For having shared your knowledge, experience concerning the academic writing. Hopefully, in the future, there will be another sharing session with
Okay.
different and more attractive topics with
Okay. Good.
Pamade.
Good luck. Good
Uh,
luck with the
one
assignment.
one quote that I like to share with all the participants. Please murder your darling right now, right, Pamade?
Yeah, I think
Murder
I
your
said it.
darling. Yeah.
I think I said to Beatty as well because it's quite a catchy phrase. Murder your darling. You know, people love the
Yeah.
sound of that in their head.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
sentence
Mhm.
they love it so much they want to
Yeah.
keep it, but you keep it somewhere else. So murder your darling for this
Mhm.
for this submission. I'm not going to use it. So.
Okay, thank you,
Yes,
Pamade.
I love that, Pak.
I love it
murder
too,
your
Bu Betty.
the murder
Uh,
your darling.
okay.
Yes, when I was his student, Pak Made keep saying that.
Oh yeah.
Love your darling. Oh, sorry, murder your darling.
So it's an old quotation, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's
From
cliche,
Pak
but it
Made.
is still
From
useful.
Pamade.
It's a cliche, but it's still
Okay.
useful.
Right. So we come to the end of our lecture session. Thank you all participants who have stayed for more than 2 hours with us. Listen to the discussion diligently. For your information, we have delivered your certificate to your email. So when you fill in the attendance link, then your certificate is in your email right now. Till we meet again, perhaps in the next webinar or next lecture session, may all of you keep healthy and safe, and also for Pak Mahde, keep
Thank you
healthy
very
there.
much.
Mudah-mudahan lockdownnya
Thank you.
segera berakhir dan kita di sini
Yeah.
juga baru PSBB lagi nih Pak Mahde. Jadi
Oh, yeah.
ya
So
karena gelombang
it's been,
berikutnya.
yeah, yeah.
Oke.
Hopefully.
Thank you everyone. Thank you
Thank you.
so much Pamade. Thank you Bapak Ibu
Thank
yang
you.
sudah hadir. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Kita
Bye.
Waalaikumsalam
thank you.
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you class. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank
Thank
you, ma'am.
you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Pak
you.
Made. Thank you, Bu
Thank you.
Mutia.
Thank you Bu Betty. Thank you very much. Okay, we are going to end the meeting.
Okay.
Session.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you. Bye. Thank you ya semuanya.
Ya, ma'am. Sama-sama, ma'am.
Sama-sama, ma'am.
Iya, ada Ibu Titin nih,
Sama-sama,
Ibu Mira.
ma'am.
Thank you Bu Titin, Ibu Mira. Siapa lagi ibu-ibunya yang hadir? Ya, tadi juga ada Ibu Desi, Ibu Sarian. Thank you, see you next time. Bye.
See you,
Bye.
ma'am.